Good morning. You're listening to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance. And now, sharing his knowledge, here's your host, Matt Libby.
All righty. Good morning. Welcome back to another edition of Insurance Matchmaking. And you don't have to listen to just me again this week. I do have a guest. I have Jared Dunn with the Dunn Agency of Country Financial. He's also another one of my fellow B&I members, so we network a lot. We both do insurance, but we do different things, and that's why I've been wanting to get Jared on here, and we've had a hard time making our calendars meet.
It's a busy year, that's for sure, but I appreciate the invitation and have been looking forward to spending some time with you.
Great. So, as I mentioned, we in B&I, I hold the life insurance seat, but I also do Medicare, the under 65 health insurance, dental plans, all those kind of things like that. Jared does the financial planning, but Country Financial is kind of a full-service agency that he can do the home and auto, but that's not the seat he holds in B&I. So we'll probably focus a little bit more on what he does in B&I and kind of stay away from where we overlap with our other members, but we can have some fun there. One of the things I thought of, Jared, I know you just recently had one, your Social Security planning seminars. Have you got another one scheduled coming up, or is that one of those things you kind of still playing by ear when you can fit it in?
Great question. Yeah, so we've done 2 this year, and they went extremely well. There are just so many nuances and layers to Social Security, and our goal is to educate the people that get to attend those meetings. But to short answer your question, I think we're looking at maybe instead of doing a off-site Social Security presentation, maybe looking at 2024 being a year where we do some on-site presentations.
Have 3 or 4 couples in the conference room and go that way with it.
And even maybe looking at doing it at an employer's location as well. So maybe the employer allows the employees, a break to go to it. And so we're looking for partners for 2024 for that. So that's kind of our strategy moving forward, is looking for corporate or even small business partners that want their employees to gain a little bit of knowledge and be a little more prepared for that day when that comes, to maximize those benefits. We all pay into it, or most of us pay into it, and we just want to make sure that we're getting the most out of it that we can.
Right. So yeah, I want to do that. I did attend. I think it was maybe the first one you put on, and had a much bigger room than we needed.
That's true.
But it was a good location. I'll put a plug in here for the Leslie Town Center. If you do get a discount if you are a member of the Chamber of Commerce, but they have a great room that's upstairs with audio visual already set up. It's not just the big, like I call it the ballroom, the big room downstairs. But when I joined the Chamber, they do a welcome to the Chamber luncheon, and that's why I saw that room. So it's a great room for meetings. And I mentioned it's upstairs, but the good thing is it's a newer construction building. There are elevators, so it is fully accessible to everyone. That's one of the things I run into. I do Medicare, 101 seminars. I got one tonight in Lebanon at it's called the Jimmy Floyd Center. I say tonight as we're recording, of course. It won't be when you hear this, but it's got to be accessible. I mean, I can't do these meetings in a place that somebody couldn't get in with a wheelchair or even just, with a cane. Just might be able to do stairs, but it's a struggle, and that's grounds for a complaint. So you want to make sure it's fully accessible, and they are good parking and everything. So that's a great location for that. So Jared does, you're looking more of helping people kind of plan that retirement, which Social Security is part of that. And, of course, sometimes life insurance falls into that realm. And I also do life insurance. So I don't get a lot of life insurance referrals from Jared, but I do get the ones that he can't place because I do have some of those guaranteed issue plans. Or I always say it's people that, they waited too long and they're old and round like me, and they can't maybe not qualify for a traditional life insurance, but they still maybe need something. So talk a little bit about what's your process of when somebody's thinking, okay, maybe they're 40 or 50, they're not ready to retire, but they realize, I probably should start planning. And of course, as we all know, if you're waiting till you're 40 or 50, it's already too late. You're already late, not too late, but you're too late to get your max, to maximize it of what you could have if you started in your 20s.
That's true. The power of compound interest, right? That's obviously a benefit if you do start earlier rather than later, but What's the saying? The best time to plant a tree was yesterday, the second best today,
or 30 years ago, the second best
it's
today.
The same concept with what we do and what I do as well. But yeah, we're able to kind of share some referrals there. Your position and have different products and services that I do, even though we overlap in the same industry with life insurance. The fact that you've got products that I don't have in my repertoire for clients that need something, or maybe a spouse needs something, you've got those products that make a lot of sense.
Right.
Where we're looking at a lot of times you're just traditional style of products, your term insurance. We do have an IUL product that's really become much more popular over the past 3 or 4 years, and then whole life insurance as well. When we go into the planning conversations with clients, that's where, going out into the future and helping them see, are there needs for estate equalization? Do they have kids? Do they own a business? Are there kids that may or may not want to be a part of that business? And how do we make sure that everybody gets their fair share? So that's where permanent insurance and whole life insurance plays a role. But that's a part of our practice, and it's honestly the most fun part of my business I get to do. I feel like it's kind of taking that individual client, going through that planning process, and helping them accomplish what their goals and their dreams are for their for their entire financial picture.
And you mentioned something reminded me of a training I had. It's been a few years ago now, but just talking about you talked about having that family business. And if I'm not mistaken, Country Financial was kind of started out as being a company to service farmers and ranchers.
Yeah.
And what happens a lot of times, you hear about the corporate farms, and the reason why all these corporate farms are you have the issue of the kids want to do something else. They went away to college and now they're going to be doctors or lawyers and not farmers. But the other side of it is a lot of times farmers think, I don't need life insurance. You can plant me in the back 40 when I die and the kids will take over the farm. But the problem is that good old inheritance tax. And so many times they end up selling the farm because that's the only way they can pay the taxes, versus if Dad would have had some life insurance, they could have paid the taxes with the life insurance and kept the family farm.
That's exactly right. That conversation doesn't happen enough, weirdly enough. You hit the nail on the head. Our organization, Country Financial, we're coming up on our 100th year here soon. We started in 1925. And still are today the Farm Bureau of Illinois. We're about a 60% market share in the state of Illinois. So huge company up there, not as well known down here in Tennessee, but the products and the services and what we're striving to help clients with is still the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're exactly right. That's those scenarios where, looking out into the future, and obviously the estate tax, that's a hot topic coming up because some of the changes that went through in 2016 are set to sunset. And come to an end in 2025, and so that tax, I think it's at roughly $13 million per individual, $26 million per household, is dropping back down to $5 million per person and $10 million per household, which that's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but there's still a lot of those clients out there that need that planning help to understand, hey, we look at a permanent life insurance option as opposed to having to sell off acreage of the farm, or if they've got other assets other places, they don't have to liquidate those assets,
right,
and use a life insurance program and a policy to take care of that for the ones left behind. That's a lot of the planning we work on as an organization for the past 100 years.
Right. You're talking about selling off those other assets. I run in, that conversation comes up a lot too when people will ask me, they'll bring up long-term care, and then we'll talk about, how much long-term care actually costs, and they're kind of like, I've got my 401k, and it's like, well, do you really want to take your retirement benefits to pay for your health care? And you may have some similar products. I have permanent life insurance and annuities that have what we call long-term care riders. I've never written a traditional long-term care plan because anytime it's come up, I'm already working with the person that wants to get the lowest cost on their health insurance. And then I was like, what about long-term care insurance? I was like, okay, starting at $500 a month, and they're going, they weren't willing to pay $500 a month for health insurance. They're going to pay for, and the other thing, I'm not a fan. And one, the rates go up or they cut the benefits because long-term care costs are going up so much, but it's also a use it or lose it product.
Yeah.
And that's why I like to have some type of asset funding for that long-term care, because, not everybody uses long-term care.
Yeah.
If you pass away before you use it, you still have money to pass on to your heirs. You just didn't pay it to the insurance company.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's long-term care. It's a booger. We wrote a long-term care standalone product my first 6 to 7 years in the industry, and I didn't write a ton of it, but I wrote a handful. The last one I wrote was actually on my mom. I said, "You're going to get this before this goes away."
Right.
And I'm probably the poster child for needing long-term care. Our family has been at least. I have 4 grandparents. All 4 grandparents have used long-term care, whether that be in a facility. My grandpa was in a facility for 8 years with dementia care. His spouse was in a long-term care facility for 6 years, and then on my dad's side, my grandpa used it for 3.5 years, and now my grandma has been using some in-home care. So it's needed in whatever fashion we can find it to best fit a client's situation and portfolio. But you're spot on. One of the biggest risks, if not the biggest risk in a client's retirement plan, is the cost of long-term care when they get
outliving your money.
Outliving your money is absolutely number one, and in a close second is probably your risk of how expensive it's going to be. I think that's just mentioned $500 a month. That's a fraction of what the actual cost is if you need it and start using it. So it's a conversation that most people, for whatever reason, haven't had, or maybe they haven't seen it in their family yet. But when you do see it and you see how expensive it is and how it can just devastate your financial picture when you're in those last innings of life, you realize how much it's needed.
Right.
For sure.
And you mentioned you had several family members that had done different levels of long-term care. And there again is one of my objections to the traditional long-term care is it's only going to pay for certain things. It's either going to pay for a nursing home or it's going to pay for licensed care. And a lot of times what people need is just a little bit of help to stay in their home. And that's one of the things I like about the asset-based long-term care, because those are indemnity plans. And of course, you and I both know, we didn't even say indemnity, but indemnity pays you. It doesn't pay, doesn't pay that professional, doesn't pay. You might be able to stay home, and sometimes, and they say when it comes to taking care of an elderly parent, it usually traditionally falls to the eldest daughter. If there's several siblings, it's usually the eldest daughter. But that eldest daughter maybe had a job, but she has to give up a job to take care of mom or dad, or they move mom or dad in with them, but they can't be left alone, so they have to stay home. You can take that insurance and pay your family member. My mother, she paid for several years, paid for grandchildren to spend the night. It was her problem was she'd get up in the night and would fall. And so it was like, okay, we just need to have somebody there to kind of listen. If grandma gets up, you help her to the bathroom, help her get back to her bed, and then you can go back to sleep. You don't have to stay awake, but you just need to be there. And then she graduated, so she needed a little bit more care. And so she was paying people to basically live with her. She had 2 full-time caregivers. One stayed for 4 days and the other one stayed for 3. The problem was the one that was 4 days didn't drive. And she was the one that was there Monday to Thursday. Yeah. so family still had to take her to the doctor, her appointments and things. So but the reason I bring that up, again, she didn't have a plan like that. She was paying out of her retirement funds. Yeah. And so that comes in. It can be very expensive. And I just noticed, I'm looking at the clock here. We're going to come up on a commercial break, and then we'll be back right after that.
Purchase your pre-sale tickets for the 27th Annual Cooking on the Square presented by Baird Private Wealth Management. Join your friends for your favorite Cajun food, along with plenty of desserts in a beautiful handmade pottery bowl. Tickets are available for pre-sale online for $25 at uchabitat.org. Several banks in town and the Habitat Restore. Special thanks to our street sponsors, including Avert Express, Cookville Ford, and Ryan Williams. In addition, thanks to our entrance sponsors, Truist Bank and Putnam County officials, and media sponsors, Zimmer Broadcasting.
Is slow internet driving you batty? This Halloween season, break free from the curse of sluggish connections. With Twin Lakes Fiber Internet, you can say goodbye to haunted buffering screens and hello to a screaming fast internet experience. With dedicated connections and speeds up to 10 gig, you can connect all of your devices and stream your favorite shows without any scary interruptions. Don't let slow internet haunt you any longer. Call 800-644-8582 or visit twinlakes.net and leave the slow speeds in the dark.
And now, back to Insurance Matchmaking, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance, hosted by Matt Libby.
All
right, and we're back with Jared Dunn from Country Financial, my fellow BNI member, and we were talking a little bit about long-term care and those kind of things. One of the things I wanted to mention, because just my assistants, my staff thinks I'm crazy, that I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I say podcasts, and a lot of times it's YouTube. This morning I went out for my walk, and I've got a headset on. I'll put on industry YouTube, people talking about different things. It just kind of helps keep me on my toes, or see how other people in the industry are doing it. And I'll do that. I don't listen to music when I walk or mow the lawn. I'm listening to business stuff, because I generally won't sit down. Once I get home in the evening, I'll binge Netflix or something. But when I'm that alone time, but there was an ad come up this morning on YouTube, and all I can say, I looked at it, it's like, it's total scam. And it's like, get your Obamacare Flex card. And what they're doing is, there is a company out there, and there may be more than one, and it's actually one of the companies in this area, and I'm not going to say their name, but because they're cracking down on people using their name, saying, hey, you get this free $400 or $500, whatever it is. But they're talking about like you're getting a credit card with $1,400 on it. No, they're talking about a lot of people will qualify for like $1,400 of tax credit on their health insurance. And then this one company has a rewards program that if you do the things you should do, that hopefully will keep your health care costs down, like actually go to the doctor, get that annual checkup and get those things done, and they'll give you money on a Visa card, debit card. Like I said, there's one company I know of doing it. They don't all do it, but what all they're doing is getting people to call this 800 number, so they can switch them to a different plan, instead of them working, as we say in BNI, friends don't let friends call 800 numbers.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you deal with similar things like that too. But lose a client, what was it? I was listening to a podcast the other day. It's like, they'll leave you over $1.
If you get them on $1, they'll leave you over $1. That's true. I think you and I both work in the same realm of being relationship based, and that's obviously the power of BNI, is those referrals come from relationships, and other business owners or people in our community that have the capability to give that stamp of approval, for lack of better words, of, hey, I know this person, they're going to take good care of you. And if they come and become a client through those means, it seems like, just the relationship, the entire process goes a lot smoother than the transactional base of calling this 800 number. You never talk to the same person twice. They don't know or may not even care how things go and how the service is going. So I think that's one of the beautiful things about a small community like Cookeville and kind of organization like what we have with BNI, is that we're able to kind of have that relationship-based process. Right.
And that's one of the things, too. I mentioned my Medicare 101 workshops. They're purely educational. Yes, I'm a licensed agent. I do them for monetary reasons I'm hoping to get clients from those meetings. But they're no obligation. They're education only. I can't pitch any product. So sometimes people, when they find out that I'm an insurance agent, they think I'm going to try to sell them something. It's like, hey, I'm not pushy on that at all. And what you mentioned, that just kind of educating. For me to educate someone, especially if they're brand new to Medicare, don't know how it works, don't know what their next step is, that workshop goes about an hour. I mean, that's just my presentations, between 45 minutes and an hour. And then sometimes we can go to another 20, 30 minutes, just Q&A. Yeah. So there's an hour and a half. But what I love about doing that is I do, not everybody comes to me. Some of them aren't ready. Sometimes they're turning 65, but they're still going to stay with their employer plan, so they're not ready to get on their Medicare, but at least they kind of have some peace of mind going forward. And the issue is, I basically do that hour of education with a brand new client.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's great when I can get them in that workshop and go over all the basic stuff. What do we mean by deductible? What's A and B? What's a Medicare replacement? What's a supplement? What's a Medigap? And go over all those definitions and get an understanding, the pros and cons of both of those options. Generally, most of the people come in, sometimes I go, do I need to go back over this? And I've got a little quick review that I can do in about 5-10 minutes, depending how much they remember from the workshop. But I don't have to spend that hour just they usually go, and we talk about on the slides, we have the blue side and the green side. And, so everything that we talk about Medicare supplement related is going to be in the blue. And everything we talk about Medicare Advantage related is going to be in the green. I didn't pick the colors. The presentation was already kind of set up for me. I'm just kind of running with it. But they come in the office and I say, "Oh, do you remember the blue and green side?" "Oh, yeah. And I think I'm thinking the blue is what I want." And I put up, a copy of the slide from when that was. "Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the blue side was what I want." I was like, "No, I think I like that screens, which that's the great thing about the turning 65 market is they have to pick something.
Right.
And as long as I get to sign them up on it, I'll get my commission. And it doesn't cost them anything to do that.
Right.
So yours is a little harder, and you have to convince people to give up their money.
Yeah, but it's the same approach. Honestly, there is so much time spent on a one-on-one appointment that you are doing that education, an hour and a half of just talking through everything. Whereas if you get a chance to do a seminar and you can be in front of 20, 25 people and do that education piece, the ones that are interested and want to know more or interested in maybe going a direction with something that you're maybe able to present to them, it shortens that, that meeting whenever you get face-to-face and one-on-one with them. They've got that education piece behind them or in their back pocket, or at least a lot higher percentage of it. So it makes it a lot easier. We do seminars, like you said, not to sell anybody anything in the moment. It's all about education, so they can make an informed decision moving forward with what their options look like. And if those are good fits for you or for me, then that's great, but it's more about the education piece than anything.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing I've started. That's one of the reasons doing this show. Yes, it's education, but it's also to get people to know me. I'm not a long-time Upper Cumberland, Cookeville person. We moved here in 2020, and I've been in Tennessee for years, and people probably go, you don't sound like you're from around here. I talk to my friends and family that I grew up with in the Northwest that they would say I have a Southern accent, but local folks would probably say, you're not from Tennessee. But after joining the Army, I spent a lot of time at Fort Campbell, lived, at Fort Campbell or when I was single, but also, lived in Clarksville. So that started in 1980, and I was back and forth either from overseas back to Fort Campbell. So even in 20 years of the Army, I spent about 10 of it at Fort Campbell. So even before I retired, and that was in 97. So I've been a Tennessee resident since 97. So it's like I feel Tennessee, and I'll go home and visit relatives up in the Northwest. And I'm really looking forward to getting back home to Tennessee. I think
we can claim you as a Tennessean with that length of time at this point. Absolutely.
But yeah, and then the other thing, it's great because I did have a presence in East Tennessee. I had a storefront office there, and I have one here in Cookeville. But when I had my office, it's always strange. It's like sometimes I'll say Rockwood, sometimes I'll say Harriman, because my mailing address was Harriman, but technically my office location was in the city limits of Rockwood. But people Google to go online looking for help, looking for a local agent, I still come up in their Google searches. And then they find out I'm in Cookeville. And, we had a call yesterday, and they're like, they didn't want to do it over the phone. They wanted someone local to sit down. So, hey, it didn't cost me anything. They called and didn't. But I've had clients. I have clients from Knoxville that will drive to my office here. Just so they still want to work with me. And then some of them I'm able to do it over the phone. I try to get more to do Zoom. And, of course, my niche market's kind of Medicare. It's hard to get a lot of those people to do a Zoom.
It is. You are spot on. But the things that we're working with these clients on is it's so important to them that they'll make that drive of an hour and a half because that education process, part of it has already been laid, right? Like, that foundation's there. They know these are important decisions that impact them for a long time. They'll make that commitment. So that's the beauty of what we get to help people with is it makes a difference. What we do is a very impactful occupation and career choice for sure.
And the other thing is, again, I can do by Zoom. Of course, we are Tennessee. This is a Tennessee, we're a Cookeville radio station here, but I'm also licensed in Kentucky. I do have a few clients in Kentucky. In fact, actually was talking to one yesterday. He's been my client now for a couple of years, lives in Lexington. And so we just do everything over the phone. But he calls me when he's got questions. So he's a good, loyal client. And I was going somewhere with this. Oh, yes, I know where I was going. Because we get these shows air on Saturday. But you can listen online, but to listen online on the radio station, it's got to be during the time the show's aired. They don't archive them, but they do give me a copy of the audio, so I'm able to pass that audio on to my webmaster, who's Randy Robbins with Fast Track Solutions, also one of our BNI members, and he's converting these audios into a YouTube. So I now have a YouTube channel, so you can catch back up on the past editions, get some education. There's a couple of, when I first started trying to line up guests, that I did a couple shows that I just sat in here and talked and did it as a monologue. I didn't have a guest, so I got two shows, and I think we've aired both of those shows now. They came in handy of when I wasn't going to be able to record. We record these shows. I'm sorry. We're not actually live. You can't call into the show. That's why one of the reasons I have the website, insurancematchmaking.com, where there's a place there where you can submit a question for the show and ask me to talk about something later or suggest a guest. And I've actually recently just had a guest that was a suggestion. Was cool. Not somebody that I knew. We met in person here. He's sitting right where you were, Jared.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. Program was last week. Harry Smith.
Yeah.
With pickleball. Oh. He's the ambassador for the pickleball, and he was a professor at Tech, so you may know him there and from there.
That's awesome. So I can go back and check and listen to that through your YouTube channel.
Right.
Cool.
And that one, of course, that one's not available yet, but basically, I think pretty much up to last week's episode should be on a YouTube.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Randy Robbins is phenomenal. If anybody's looking for, any help in that space, he's highly recommended. He's done work for our agency as well, and couldn't say enough good things about him and his team.
All right. And before we run out of time, believe it or not, like I said, this show goes a lot faster than you think. What's the best way for people to find you?
Honestly, probably the easiest way is our website. There's so many good things on there, ways to get in touch with us. So if you just go on to Google and search Jared Dunn Country Financial, we'll pop up there, and you can check out our site. Obviously, we have a physical location right on Jefferson Avenue, right off the square, and then so you can always pop in, and then you're always welcome to give us a phone call at 528-7414.
And for old-timers, you're across from what used to be
Great Harvest Bread, yeah. Most people knew where that was, hated to see that go, but they've renovated that property across the street. But our front door is directly across from where that building used to be. I think now it's a IT center for One Bank is actually what's occupying that now. So Dr. Stringer's office, the dentist, is right next door to me. So that's another common thing that people can remember and locate. So we're right.
Well, I've realized it's like, you should just off the square, but I realized I wanted to get a little more specific because you could have been north of the square.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
But as I've said before, insurancematchmaking.com, my office, 528 North Willow, just hired have a new receptionist. I need to get Bree on here one time. If you called my office anytime in the past year, you've talked to Bree, and you've maybe met Bree. Well, now we have Kalia. So I have two young ladies working in the office. They can answer a lot of your questions. A lot of people, they just want to talk to me, and it's so funny. I had somebody call in one time. It was a previous assistant, so I always try to remind my assistants now. But ask to talk to me. And it was all they wanted to do was schedule an appointment. And it was, they were a client, but it's like, hey, I need to come in, schedule an appointment to come in to see you. And I'm thinking, what do you think that young lady I pay to answer the phone does?
Yeah, no, we face the same struggle. I can relate.
So you call in. Kalia's there part-time, but Bree is now licensed. She's certified to do the Medicare plans also. She's done one by herself this week for a drug plan, and it's like I actually had to schedule an appointment for her on Monday because somebody that had been in one of my workshops, and they needed to review their drug plan and wanted to come in Monday, and I'm booked up on Monday, but Bree wasn't. So I said, well, I'll be there. So if she gets stuck, I'm still there. But that's one of the reasons why I have other people. Like there's only one of me, and it's like if I'm not able to do it just me, I can't get to everybody. It's just so time-consuming, and especially those Part D drug plans. We've got to do them now during this enrollment period, which ends on December 7th. The Medicare Advantage plans, we get another option after the whole first quarter of the year. We can do something in a Medicare supplement. If you're healthy enough to change plans and get a lower rate, we can do that anytime during the year. That's not tied. But the drug plans, if you're going to change your drug plan, you got to do that. And the prices are going up on those. So, again, thanks, Jared, for coming in. And
I appreciate the invite. This has been a lot of fun, and you were spot on. The time flies by.
Yep. All right. Well, until next week, insurancematchmaking.com. See you then.
You've been listening to Insurance Matchmaking with Matt Libby, your path to health, life, and Medicare coverage with Matt Libby Insurance.